we've got a Lamborghini out on track, just about to do some demo laps. And as you can see, the O'Gara Motorsports on track now, the arrow-painted McLaren colors. Absolutely glorious. Now, sorry for my little quietness there, but I was just getting acquainted with my next guest, who I think is very acquainted with, certainly O'Gara. But do you know a little bit about this car that's on track right now?
I absolutely do. So that's one of our cars.
Parris Mullins, right?
Oh, yeah, Parris Mullins, yes.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
What do we got here?
So this is a Lamborghini Super Trofeo. It is part of their one-make series that competes all around the world. Our car competes in North America, obviously, but our team is actually headed to the World Finals in a month. So, but anyway, yeah, we brought the car out here to kind of show off and show our presence in the series.
O'Gara, obviously a big part of this event. Tell me a little bit about, or more about O'Gara.
Sure, yeah. So we're a dealer group based in Southern California with 3 different locations. But we have a motorsport facility based out at the Thermal Club. This is just outside Palm Springs. And so that's where our motorsport operation is. And we're, a dealer for Lamborghini, Aston Martin. We do stuff with McLaren. And Ligier, so a number of motorsport brands.
I commentated on the Lamborghini Super Trofeo series in Asia for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I didn't know much about the Lamborghini brand, because unless you're a Lamborghini follower, it tends to be not more obscure. That's an unfair term, but it's not as well known, perhaps.
Sure.
But when you start to see the one-make series and you start to see what these guys can do, and also out in Asia, we got the hot shoes from Italy, the young drivers who were basically given a chance to drive these things to their limit and see if they could finally make it into maybe WEC or wherever they were going next. I got a real appreciation of what the Lamborghini could do.
Absolutely. So, I mean, speaking of young hot shoes, this is one of our American young hot shoes, Patrick Liddy. So he competes with us in the series. He's also a Ligier LMP3 driver. So same thing, like you said, these are guys that are working their way up the motorsport ladder, and who knows where they'll end up.
Lamborghini have always gone a slightly different route. I mean, to be an Italian sports car manufacturer is not easy.
No.
Competing against both the history, but also the modernity of some of the hypercars, but also obviously Ferrari. Let's face it. But they've always gone their own way, and I've always been impressed by that. They've always looked at the lines of the other cars and thought, what could we do different? How could we make our cars not only just a supercar, like I'm sure you did as a kid? I used to play, cards, trump cards. Like
Top Trumps.
Top Trumps.
I love that game.
I've got the Lamborghini Testarossa. I've got this. I've got the Ferrari there. So Lamborghini, though, always went with power. That was always kind of like their thing. We have the fastest road car. But they've had to be more intricate than that in modern day. Yeah,
and I will say, it was a big deal for them to jump into motorsport. I mean, if you think about it, it was 2012 is kind of when they started. And it started with the one-make series, knowing that they were going to go into, upper echelons of gentleman driver racing, GT3, things like that. And what's even more amazing is they just announced they're going to be an LMDH. I mean, we're finally actually going to see,
that's the big stuff.
Ferrari, Lamborghini prototypes competing against each other, which is going to be amazing. So the fact that they actually want to compete, in one of the highest levels of especially closed cockpit motorsport is amazing. But they've done a great job. They've won Daytona 3 times,
Amazing.
So not too bad for just arriving on the scene, relatively speaking.
Kind of so. Now, I noticed you've got the Arrow logo and also the McLaren dutable colors on a Lamborghini. What's the connection between both those two companies?
Tom O'Gara is good friends with Mike Long, the CEO of Arrow. And even though, yes, they have a very strong partnership with McLaren, they decided to do something special with us for this year and sponsor us in this series. So as you know, Aero is an electronics company.
Yes.
They're actually in a number of different cars. They just don't kind of put their name on everything. So, who knows? Maybe Aero is trying to venture out into other car brands. But yeah, this was just something kind of nice that we did this year with them.
Now, tell me what you're doing. This is going to the World Final?
Correct. Yeah. So
now that is all one make Lamborghini?
Yes. Yeah, so that's going to be where Asia, Europe, and the US all come together to compete.
So it's very similar to how Ferrari used to do the Ferrari Challenge.
Absolutely. Same thing. So just like Finale Mondiali for Ferrari.
Yeah. So who's favorite for that then? That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And where is this car based? Because there's going to be a lot of people in the crowd and listening to this on the PA. Where can we see it?
So I don't know what you'd call this area over here. I guess it's going to be the only area of the green lawn.
It's right in front of the, it's right next to the pre-grid,
the grid, yeah, the pre-grid. So yeah, you can't miss us. We've got a Formula One car on display, 2 McLaren P1s, 2 Ferrari Revival cars, a 250 short wheelbase and a 250 TR. So yeah.
So if you're moving to California and you're interested in a high-end car, O'Gara's your man.
We're the place to go to, absolutely.
What do you do? What's your role?
So I'm the director of Motorsport and Special Projects. So everything that has to do with track-only product and racing, and then some of the special stuff that we do with the brands. There's a lot of stuff that is kind of like for VVIPs, special product. Like McLaren, for instance, they came out with the Solus GT, that center seat, car that they're doing. So that's something that I would look after for O'Gara, things like that. So.
And give us an idea of your stable, to use the word. You've got the Lamborghinis. You mentioned McLaren. Who else?
Oh, so we've got Bugatti, Koenigsegg, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Rimac, obviously McLaren. God, I'm trying to think of what else.
That's plenty.
Yeah, it's plenty. Yeah, at this point.
And how big then? It must be a big. You have several distribution centers, or?
Absolutely. So we've got a base in Beverly Hills, San Diego, and the Westlake area that kind of handles Santa Barbara and that area.
What's the favorite? What are people going to these days?
What, in terms of brand? Yeah, I was going to say, everything. I mean, right now, the car business in general is just booming, but I think every brand is seeing success.
And it's interesting, even Rolls-Royce and Bentley are getting into the sports high-end production.
Yeah.
What's under the bonnet of a modern-day Bentley or Rolls-Royce is almost as impressive as it was back in the 30s.
Right.
in terms of competitiveness.
Yeah. No, I think everyone's kind of performing at their best right now, especially with kind of the internal combustion engine possibly, going away. I think everybody's trying to put out their best that they can do.
Well, he's definitely not holding back. He's putting some laps in here. Do you know any of the specs on top speed of this car?
Yeah, top speed, I would have no idea. I think it depends on how the car is set up.
Who's driving
obviously, it? And who's driving it. But yeah, no, it's 640 horsepower. Car weighs just under 3,000 pounds. But it's a rocket ship. X-Track gearbox, has a V10 engine, naturally aspirated, something that's kind of specialty here nowadays. That many cylinders, naturally aspirated. That won't be around for much longer. But the car makes, as you can hear, beautiful sound. But it's for a gentleman race car, it's a proper car.
Absolutely.
But all the arrows designed by Dallara too.
Yep. Yes, Dallara obviously a big part of this weekend as well. We're very pleased to have their presence here, and of course everybody who knows their racing knows the history of Dallara in racing. Still very much prominent in all forms of racing.
Yep.
So, O'Gara Motorsports, my thanks to Parris coming in and joining us and telling us a little about what other demonstrations can we tell the audience about? Will there be more of this, and will we see this car again?
Absolutely. So we'll probably run same time tomorrow with this car, and then we'll probably bring out the McLarens in the session later in the day. So you'll see us.
come down to the paddock, come and see Parris if he's around, and you've got some staff, I'm sure, that will help guide people through. But it's literally right in the middle of the paddock, right by the pre-paddock. My commentary booth is in front of the VP Racing Fuels. If you head to there and then look behind you, you'll see what we're talking about. You can't really miss it. Parris, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Enjoy your day. Come back anytime. Glad to meet you.
You as well.
We're doing it on the fly, but we're getting to know each other. It's good stuff. We're live here at Laguna Seca. My thanks to Parris Mullins coming in here to talk O'Gara Motorsports with us, one of the big sponsors here and one of the big event people here at the Invitational here, Velocity Invitational for 2022. Looking forward to our next group of race cars coming up, and that'll be 1927 to 1949 and 1927 to 1937 sports and touring cars. But basically, a very early era, and perhaps our earliest, as it's Group 1. And I'm looking forward particularly to that because it's the Bugattis, the Talbots, the Alfa Romeos, and the ERAs. As you can see, the paddock starting to fill up nicely as well. And looking forward to what should be a really interesting weekend.